Across the United States, a quiet kind of housing stress is building in roughly a dozen plus states, and most homeowners won't recognize it until it's already expensive. Not because a hurricane hits their street, not because the economy collapses on the news overnight, but because the market can turn against you while you're doing everything right. You can pay on time, keep the house clean, improve the kitchen, mow the lawn every weekend, and still wake up one morning to realize your home is worth far less than you assumed, while the cost to keep it keeps rising. That's the new risk cycle in 2026. Your home can lose liquidity and gain expenses at the same time. And for homeowners over 50, this is more than a chart on a screen. It's retirement math. It's mobility. It's freedom. It's whether you can downsize when you plan to, relocate when you need to, or simply breathe without feeling like your house is quietly draining you. Think of this as a warning. Shot, not fear, not doom, just clarity. Because the dangerous part isn't prices falling. Prices can fall and recover. The dangerous part is when all of this happens together. Your insurance renews and jumps hard, property taxes rise because assessments lag reality. HOA fees climb because buildings need repairs or reserves. Interest rates keep payments high for anyone who bought. Recently, buyers disappear, so selling takes longer or requires painful cuts. Your asset becomes a monthly obligation with fewer exit options. That's a financial cliff, and it doesn't look dramatic until you're close enough to fall. This video is about 15 states where that pressure is showing up in different forms. Foreclosures ticking up, inventory rising, affordability breaking, insurance and taxes squeezing, investors exiting, and homeowners getting stuck. And at the end, I'm going to give you a simple way to audit your own situation so you're not guessing. Quick disclaimer, this is educational, based on public reporting and market trends. It isn't financial advice. If you're making big decisions, talk to a qualified professional who can look at your numbers. Now, let's start with the state that's become the clearest signal in the entire country. 1. Florida, the cost to own crisis. Florida is a perfect example of how a market can look beautiful while the ownership math turns brutal. Yes, prices can soften in certain pockets, but the real pressure is what it costs to simply hold the property. Insurance, taxes, special assessments, repairs, and storm risk. Recent reporting has highlighted Florida among the states with the highest foreclosure rates, which is the clearest indicator that some owners have hit the wall. Here's what makes Florida different. This isn't only a demand problem, it's a carrying cost problem. When insurance jumps, it doesn't ask permission. It doesn't care if you're retired. It doesn't care if your home value dipped. It shows up as an escrow increase, and your payment rises anyway. And in condo-heavy areas, it gets worse. Rising HOA fees plus special assessments can turn a reasonable monthly cost into a budget breaker. Then there's the investor effect. When short-term rental numbers soften and costs rise, investors don't suffer quietly. They exit. And when enough of them exit in the same zip codes, you get more listings, more price cuts, and longer days on market. If you live in Florida, the question isn't, do I love the weather? The question is, can I survive the cost to own curve for the next 5-10 years without my home turning into a liability? If you're in Florida, comment your county and what changed most for you: insurance, taxes, HOA, or maintenance. 2. South Carolina. The retirement illusion meets rate reality. South Carolina was marketed as the calm alternative: lower cost, slower pace, a place to settle, and for a while, it worked, especially during the 2020-2022 buying surge. But a lot of buyers didn't move with cash. They moved with financing at a moment when the market was inflated and then rates rose. Recent reporting has also flagged South Carolina among top states for foreclosure rates. Here's the trap. A state can feel affordable until you buy at peak pricing and your payment locks you into a lifestyle. Then add storms, insurance volatility, and repairs. Add the fact that many retirees and near retirees live on a tighter fixed income. Suddenly, affordable starts asking uncomfortable questions. South Carolina isn't collapsing like a movie scene. It's tightening like a belt. And the belt doesn't loosen just because you want it to. 3. Nevada. When the Vegas investor exits, the market feels it. Nevada, especially Las Vegas, has always been a boom and bust laboratory. It attracts optimism, and optimism attracts leverage. The short-term rental gold rush pulled in thousands of buyers who weren't building stability. They were building yield, but yields don't care about your intentions. They care about numbers. When bookings soften, when cleaning and maintenance costs rise, when regulation tightens, when rates rise, the investor's cash machine turns into a cash drain. Then the same thing happens every time. They list. Nevada has been cited among states with high foreclosure rates in recent reporting. And the psychological shift matters. Once enough owners decide the dream is over, the exit wave becomes its own force. More supply means more competition. More competition means the concessions. And concessions eventually hit prices. Vegas still looks bright, but markets don't run on neon. They run on balance sheets. 4. Illinois. The slow bleed of taxes and outmigration. Illinois doesn't need hurricanes to pressure homeowners. It has something quieter. High property taxes, population shifts, and long-term budget stress. Illinois is widely cited as one of the highest property tax burden states in the U.S. Here's why that matters. When people leave, the tax burden doesn't vanish. It concentrates. Fewer taxpayers end up carrying the same machine. And property taxes are not optional. They don't pause when your home value softens. They don't care if your neighborhood is struggling with demand. They show up every year. And if you're a homeowner over 50, they can quietly become one of your largest annual expenses. Illinois doesn't always crash. It drains. And draining is dangerous because it convinces you to tolerate it longer than you should. 5. Delaware. The small state that can tip faster than people expect. Delaware surprises people because it's small and often seen as stable. But small markets can break faster, not because they're weaker, but because they have less shock absorption. When enough homeowners in a small state feel pressure at the same time, higher payments, stagnant prices, fewer buyers, inventory shifts quickly. Delaware has also been cited in recent reporting as a state with high foreclosure rates. The danger here is psychological. People assume quiet state means safe market. It doesn't. Safe is not a vibe. Safe is math. 6. California. The dream is still there, but the ownership math is savage. California is complicated because it's not one market. It's multiple worlds. But statewide, the pressure is obvious. Affordability is stretched. Insurance is volatile in risk areas. Buyers thin out when rates stay high. Many owners sit on huge mortgages relative to income. Even small price dips can matter when the base level is high because liquidity becomes fragile. When the buyer pool shrinks, sellers don't just lose value. They lose options. The key point for California homeowners over 50 is this. If your plan requires selling at a certain price in a certain year, you don't have a plan. You have a hope. Hope is not strategy. 7. Texas. Cheap didn't mean stable. Texas sold itself as the opportunity state. More house, more space, less cost. But a lot of buyers learned the hard way that Texas affordability can be offset by property taxes, insurance increases, repairs from severe weather rising costs in fast growth metros, and the fact that high rates changed the game for anyone buying recently. When inventory grows and demand cools, people expecting quick appreciation suddenly feel stuck, especially if they bought near the top. Texas isn't doomed, but parts of Texas are overbuilt, overhyped, and overpriced relative to what buyers can comfortably carry at today's rates. 8. Indiana. The quiet risk of normal markets. Indiana doesn't scream danger, and that's exactly why it matters. In calmer states, people get comfortable stretching. I can handle this payment. It'll be fine. My job is stable. Then rates rise, costs rise, repairs rise, and home values don't climb fast enough to cover mistakes. The threat in states like Indiana is not dramatic collapse. It's the slow realization that you're working harder just to stand still. 9. New Jersey. High taxes, high cost, shrinking flexibility. New Jersey carries the pressure of being near New York, while also carrying a heavy property tax burden. When demand softens, a high-cost state feels it immediately because the margin for error is smaller. If your taxes are high, your payment is high, your upkeep is high, there's less room to absorb shocks like job changes, health expenses, or family needs. And if you're over 50, flexibility matters more than hype. A home is not just where you live. It's a tool. If it traps you, it stops being a tool. 10. Arizona. The Sun Belt hangover. Arizona was a migration magnet, but markets built on surges can suffer when surges slow. If listings rise and buyers hesitate, sellers compete. If sellers compete, prices soften. If prices soften while costs rise, homeowners feel squeezed. Arizona also faces heat-driven infrastructure stress, utilities, maintenance, water-related concerns, things that don't show up in the listing price but show up in real life. Sunshine doesn't guarantee comfort. Comfort comes from affordability that survives reality. 11. Colorado. Scenic doesn't mean stable. Colorado attracts people with lifestyle. Mountains, air, identity, but lifestyle states often carry premium pricing, and premium pricing is fragile when rates stay high. If inventory rises and homes sit longer, liquidity weakens. Sellers cut. Buyers negotiate. That's normal. What isn't normal is when your cost to own doesn't fall with the market. If you're paying more each year to keep a home that's no longer appreciating the way you assumed, you need to rethink your investment story. 12. Oregon. Calm exterior. Tightening interior. Oregon has the same pattern many quieter states are facing. Rising ownership costs cautious buyers listings, building up homeowners quietly, reconsidering the long term. The key issue for retirees and near retirees is predictable. Fixed income meets rising costs. A market doesn't have to crash to ruin a retirement plan. It just has to make ownership more expensive than your budget can tolerate. 13. New York. Prestige can't protect you from math. New York still has deep demand in certain pockets, especially luxury and prime areas. But the state is splitting. One world holds, the other softens. Middle-tier homeowners face the worst of both: high costs, high taxes, and a buyer pool that becomes picky when affordability breaks. In a high-cost state, even small changes in rates and demand can create big consequences for exit timing. If your next move depends on selling fast, you should be watching days on market like a hawk. 14. Ohio. Affordability is real, But timing risk is real too. Ohio remains more affordable than many states, but affordable doesn't automatically mean safe. Safety depends on liquidity and stability, jobs, population, demand, and the ability to sell when life changes. If inventory rises and buyers slow, it can trap homeowners who plan to relocate or downsize on a schedule. That's the risk for older homeowners, not catastrophe, timing. 15. Pennsylvania. The slow erosion people underestimate Pennsylvania isn't always dramatic. It's steady, and steady can be deceptive. When prices stagnate and costs rise, homeowners feel squeezed without headlines. And in certain areas, long-term vacancies can become an early warning. Neighborhoods don't collapse all at once. They fade. If you're over 50 and holding a home in a slow market, your biggest enemy isn't fear. It's denial. The 5-point, am I on the cliff? Homeowner, audit. Before you panic, do this instead. A calm man doesn't guess. He audits. 1. Liquidity check. If you listed your home today, how long would it realistically take to sell in your neighborhood? 2. Cost to own check. What changed in the last 24 months? Insurance, taxes, HOA, utilities, maintenance? Add the increases up. 3. Payment shock check. If your escrow rose again next year, could you absorb it without cutting your lifestyle? 4. Exit plan check. If you needed to move for health, family, or work, do you have a clean plan or are you relying on the market? 5. Stress test check. If one income dropped or one emergency hit, would your home become a trap? If 2 or more of these make you uncomfortable, you're not doomed, but you are exposed. And exposed homeowners get punished when the market tightens. 15 states, 15 warnings. Not because every home will collapse, but because too many homeowners are living on assumptions that no longer match the world. Prices can soften. Markets can correct. That's normal. What isn't normal is when the cost of ownership climbs while your exit options shrink. So here's the question I want you to answer in the comments. Is your home still an asset, or has it quietly become a burden? And if you're comfortable sharing, what state are you in, and what's hitting you hardest right now? Insurance, taxes, HOA, interest rates, or lack of buyers. If this helped you see the landscape more clearly, subscribe. Not for hype, not for fear, but for the kind of calm, practical reality most people ignore until it costs them. A home should be a foundation for your future, not the place where your savings quietly disappear.